Welcome to New Thought Deep Dive. Each week, we dive into a refresher on New Thought spiritual ideas that leave you thinking. Everything about this podcast, from the intro to the script and the presenters, is generated by AI. For more information, please visit newthoughtnexus.net.
So, what if the worst thing that happened to you this week, like, I don't know, a flat tire on the way to work or a painful rejection, wasn't actually a punishment from the universe?
Right. What if it was just a perfectly timed alarm clock trying to save your life? It really completely flips the script on how we experience adversity.
It totally does. Welcome back to the Deep Dive, everyone. You are stepping right into the third week of your 4-week journey in the class, Spiritual Unfoldment, a practical guide to soul growth.
Yes, and we are so glad you're sticking with us for this.
Yeah, so just to recap quickly, week 1 was all about preparing the soil, so clearing out that worldly drama. And week 2 was discovering the seed, right? Finding your true self.
Exactly.
So now for week 3, the mission of this deep dive is tending the garden. Okay, let's unpack this because the first 2 weeks were like reading the gardening manual and buying the seeds. Week 3 is where we actually get our hands dirty in the soil of our own minds.
Yeah, and to do that effectively, we have to look really closely at the core metaphor the text uses. The Garden of Eden in this teaching is not, it's not a historical geographical place.
Right, not somewhere in ancient Mesopotamia.
No, not at all. Instead, it represents a vibrant, very active region within your own consciousness. We're moving from theory straight into daily practical application here.
Okay, so we're actively tending this mental garden now, but I mean, the very first thing you usually encounter when you start digging in the dirt isn't a beautiful flower. It's thorns and weeds.
The challenges of daily life, yeah.
Huh.
And how you interact with those weeds completely determines the trajectory of your spiritual growth.
So what does this all mean when bad things actually happen? Usually human nature makes us ask, why is God punishing me? Or, what did I do wrong to deserve this illness or this financial hit?
What's fascinating here is that this teaching completely discards the concept of a moody, judgmental deity sitting on a cloud just dealing out punishments.
Right, there's no cosmic scoreboard where you're losing.
Exactly. Instead, challenges are defined as grace in action. Now, I know when you're in the middle of a crisis, it certainly doesn't feel like grace.
Oh, definitely not. It feels terrible.
It does. But grace, in this highly practical context, is a highly accurate corrective feedback loop.
Which reminds me of that analogy from the source material, the rumble strips.
Oh, yes, that's a perfect way to visualize it.
Yeah, so think about driving down the highway. Life's difficulties are like the rumble strips on the side of the road. When your car drifts, the loud noise and the vibration, they aren't punishing you.
Right, the road isn't mad at you.
Exactly. They are providing immediate feedback to wake you up and get you back in your lane before you drive into a ditch.
The anxiety, the conflict, the scarcity you feel, those are the rumble strips of your consciousness.
Yeah.
The universe is just alerting you that you've drifted.
And the text grounds this in the parable of the prodigal son, right? But not as a literal history.
No, it's a metaphysical map. So the son travels to a far country and starves. That far country is a state of consciousness, completely consumed by the material world and external drama.
So the starving, the famine he experiences, that's the rumble strip.
Precisely. Returning home represents shifting back to your spiritual center. And the text proves that the moment you make that internal shift, the universe runs to meet you. There's no probation period.
Okay, but if challenges are just feedback telling us we've drifted into the far country, what exactly is causing us to drift in the first place?
Well, the short answer is fear. Fear is a misuse of the natural laws governing our garden, specifically the law of good or the law of mind action.
Right, and the text says this law operates completely impersonally, kind of like gravity.
Exactly like gravity. Gravity doesn't care if you're a good person or a bad person. If you drop a glass, it breaks. The law of mind simply faithfully grows whatever seeds you consistently plant in it.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Fear isn't just an emotion. It's actually faith placed in the wrong direction.
Yes, that's a huge realization for students.
Right, because when you worry, you are actively using your creative mental power to vividly imagine the worst possible outcome. You're literally planting seeds of lack and sickness in your own garden.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, to tend the garden properly, we must replace that fear with trust. But, and this is crucial, This is not toxic positivity.
Oh, thank goodness. I was hoping we'd clarify that.
Yeah, it's not just forcing a smile and ignoring your problems. Trust is a disciplined spiritual resolve. It's facing problems head on, like taking necessary medical steps for an illness, but absolutely refusing to grant that disease ultimate power over your reality.
You refuse to water the weeds of panic.
Exactly.
But, I mean, we're surrounded by stress every day. If we don't have a maintenance routine, the weeds will just take over. You can't just weed a garden once a year.
You really can't. And that brings us to the daily harvest, specifically the practice of retrospection. It's an evening routine where you review your day.
Wait, isn't looking back over my mistakes every single night just a recipe for massive guilt and self-condemnation? That sounds exhausting.
I know it sounds that way, but retrospection is absolutely not about guilt. Guilt is just another invasive weed.
Oh,
Retrospection is an objective observation of the mind in action. You're just a gardener scanning the soil to see what sprouted. It prevents what the text calls psychic fester.
Psychic fester, that paints a picture.
It does, right. There's this incredibly powerful line in the material. There's often no such thing as heart trouble, only a troubled heart.
Wow. Yeah, the physical toll of holding on to resentment is huge. So what are the actual mechanics? What are we doing every night?
There are two specific steps you perform right before sleep. The first is the loosing, or the release.
Okay, so that's identifying a moment of anger or lack from the day and like mentally untethering from it?
Yes. You detach and say, I loose that moment of anger. It has no power over me. You're pulling the weed out by the root so it doesn't have 8 hours to establish itself while you sleep.
But nature abhors a vacuum. If you pull a weed out, you can't just leave a hole in the dirt.
Exactly, which is why the second step is the binding, the planting.
So immediately planting a new seed of wholeness or peace to replace the weed you just pulled.
Right. If you loosed a moment of financial panic, you immediately bind the seed of abundance. You consciously choose the new vibration.
Okay, so we're doing this daily weeding and planting, loosing, and binding. But what are the specific tools we're using to cultivate this soil?
The master's tools in this framework are the perfect balance of love and wisdom.
But if I'm just endlessly loving and compassionate to everyone, don't I risk becoming totally emotionally exhausted carrying everyone else's drama?
This raises an important question, because we have to define love correctly here. In a metaphysical sense, divine love is not a sentimental, romantic emotion. It's a universal solvent.
A solvent, so it naturally melts away tension and blockages.
Yes, but love must be paired with wisdom, which is clear sight and discernment.
Because if you just have love without wisdom,
you get emotional entanglement, you absorb their anger, try to rescue them from the consequences of their actions, and you burn out. You drown in their weeds.
Yikes. Okay, and what about wisdom without love?
That leads to cold intellectual detachment. You see their flaws perfectly, but without the warmth of love, you just stand on the edge of the garden judging them. You become critical and isolated.
Which means the ultimate goal for the student here is what the text calls the stance of the master.
The highest form of relating to the world, yes.
So the stance of the master means providing a clear, radiant impulse of love toward a situation or a person, offering that solvent, and then deliberately stepping back.
Deliberately stepping back, yes. Refusing to micromanage the outcome. You trust the propulsion of the law to carry the healing forward. You fiercely protect your own garden rather than jumping the fence to rip the weeds out of theirs.
That is so freeing. So to recap everything for your week 3 journey, the garden is your own consciousness. Challenges are just rumble strips providing feedback. The law of mind is completely impartial, so we absolutely must replace fear with trust.
And finally, you maintain it all with daily retrospection, using balanced love and wisdom to keep the soil healthy. Remember, spiritual growth is an active daily stewardship.
It's not a frantic struggle.
No, not at all. Just steady, intentional work.
Well, you've learned how to tend the soil, pull the weeds of fear, and trust the exact laws of the garden. But if you are the gardener and your mind is the garden itself, what happens when you realize you might also be the sunlight and the rain? Keep that in mind as we prepare for week 4. The blossom.